someone at a computer doing something, AI is going to take over those jobs like lightning.
Entry-level jobs are vanishing at an alarming rate.
Half of entry-level white-collar jobs disappearing and 10 to 20% unemployment in the next 1 to 5 years.
The companies that are building AGI, I believe, are doing something that is profoundly against the general human interest. Most people do not want AI systems that are going to replace them. Most people want technological tools that make them better at what they want to do and make things easier and so on. Trillions of dollars are going into AI data centers and building these giant clusters of chips. What leads to trillions of dollars in capital expenditure? Is it curing cancer or solving poverty or climate change? We're all adults here. We know this is not the reason. Is it $20 a month subscriptions? I'm afraid the numbers just don't add up. Is it even better ads? Again, the numbers don't add up. Is it perhaps $1,000 a month subscriptions to businesses to replace expensive human labor with machines? The prize is the $50 trillion labor market. This is the only thing that makes the economics of these vast investments in AI make sense. They have to be working toward replacing a large swath of human labor.
Some jobs will disappear, but a whole bunch of new jobs are created.
AI agents could automate more than half of U.S. work hours, both manual and cognitive. If millions of people lose work, how will they support themselves?
Unemployment could spike to 10 to 20% in the next 5 years.
So we're looking at a world where we have levels of unemployment we've never seen before.
Certainly people's predictions about what is going to happen if we build AGI for employment are all over the place. The most plausible sets of predictions that I've seen, as you increase the fraction of things that are automated, two things happen. Productivity goes up. You can do lots more by automating things and making them really cheap. And wages go up because you empower people to do lots more things until you hit a certain point where the AI can do almost all of the things that the person can do. Productivity keeps going up, stuff keeps getting done, but wages suddenly crater because you don't have to pay humans to do them anymore and you just swap out humans for the AI systems. We're going to see big productivity gains and probably wage gains for some people at least. Other people will be displaced and large inequality between the people who are still making lots of money by running the AI systems at high efficiency and those that kind of get pushed out. As the fraction of tasks becomes near one that AI can do, everybody is going to be in the same boat. We're not going to have economically valuable skills.
Even with AI at its current state, we're pretty close to being able to replace half of all jobs.
If we go all the way to AGI or superintelligence, people are not going to get paid very much for doing things that can be done for free by a machine. Is that what we want? Or do we want to choose not to build the things that are going to replace all the people?
There's been a 13% job loss in AI-exposed jobs for young entry-level college workers. Looks like that trend is already continuing.
The situation is pretty dire. The corporate race is going full tilt with more money and intellectual effort being put into building AGI and superintelligence than frankly any other human endeavor. Way more than the Manhattan Project, way more than the Apollo Project. Regulation-wise, there is effectively zero. Current US administration is fully staffed with people who want there to be zero regulation on AI. And the US Congress, the only thing that they've been trying to do in terms of AI lawmaking is to prevent states from making any regulation of their own.
Trying to prevent the states from regulating. They paid them a large amount of money.
Huge amounts of money in political ad spending and supporting candidates that are anti-regulation.
They're lobbying to get less AI regulation. There's hardly any regulation as it is, but they want less because they want short-term profits. So in California, they had a very sensible bill where they said that at least what big companies have to do is test things carefully and report the results of their tests. And they didn't even like that.
The investment cycle is proceeding with huge amounts of money being poured into the explicit goal of replacing people in human labor. This has been such a big part of the economy, building these data centers, building the chips, building all of these things. Companies are sort of making the argument that now they're too big to let fail. If we don't go down this crazy AI build-out path, that will by itself start to tank the US economy.
If we don't have AI and robots, we're all going to go bankrupt and we're headed for economic doom.
We're on a bad path with AI, building simulations and replacements for human beings, no holds barred, totally ungoverned corporate race. So we're in this race to replace. Replacing human interaction with human AI interaction. There's a dollar-driven race to AGI to replace human labor, and there's a race for superintelligence in pursuit of power. Whoever wins the race, humanity loses. Currently, we have AI systems that are highly intelligent, but not that autonomous or general. We've got autonomous systems like Roombas that aren't very smart and aren't very general. What we don't have is all three in one system. The reason that is so important is because that's where us humans sit. Once we have AI systems that are autonomous and general and intelligent, we'll have something that we can simply take the human out and slot the AI system in.
AI is on an exponential trend. The amount of computation that goes into the models doubles every 4 months.
AI progress has been going incredibly quickly, up and up and up. And if we just extrapolate another year or two of this progress, these are going to be things that are very competitive, if not superhuman, compared to human experts. The generality and the intelligence are in some level there. What about the autonomy? AI systems are getting autonomous at a very rapid rate. Recently, there was measured to be 10 hours. This is doubling every 6 months or so. In a year or so more, we're going to have a 40-hour work week.
I can't believe that it's doing like day-long tasks now. How did that happen so quickly? And week-long tasks are not super far away.
This is something that you really can start to slot in for a human worker. We can even measure directly, at least for remote work, create a whole new website with these specifications or create a new online dashboard and see how many of these can AI systems just automatically do. Right now, that fraction is relatively low. It's about 5% of all those tasks that AI can do all by itself, but this is growing very rapidly. Once this gets to 10% or 20 or 50%, then what are the companies going to do when they can either send this remote work to a human or they can send it to an AI system and have it back hours later for a 10th or 100th of the price? Obviously, the human workers are going to be out of a job.
Anything you can do on a computer could be automated.
AI can replace people in lots of jobs. I don't think people have factored in enough the massive social disruption that will cause.
This deliberate creation of human replacements is going to be incredibly disruptive, and at maximum, there's going to be essentially no human work. Human labor value will fall to roughly zero. What sort of world is that? How do people make a living? Where do they have social power if their work, which is the main thing that most people have as a value to the economy, has no value anymore? Since the Stone Age, we've been building tools. The internet, running water, and toilets that work, and all of the things are tools. What we don't like is when our tools have a mind of their own. We want our tools to do what we want them to do and not do something else. The way I think about AGI is not as artificial general intelligence, but it's autonomous general intelligence. It's something that is smart, like a human. It's something that's general. It can do all sorts of different things, which AI can now do. What it's not very much at the moment is autonomous. Most AI systems just sit there until you ask them what to do. They don't run rogue and run amok yet. Autonomous general intelligence, AGI, which companies are very much trying to build, would be things that could operate on their own. They could have their own goals. And that changes things completely. That is not a tool for a human to use. That is more like another being. Am I building this thing to allow a person to do something they couldn't already do, is under their control? Or am I building something that's going to replace a person? If you think about the kind of AI systems we have now, they come in both varieties. Like there are image recognition systems or, a mapping program or something. But we also are building AI systems like an AI therapist or an AI girlfriend or boyfriend. These maybe are empowering in a sense, like you couldn't have a therapist or a girlfriend or boyfriend before, now you can have an AI one, so you're empowered. But really, we're replacing people with these systems.
You replace all the human workers in the world. Anything that has economic value, you could use AGI to create it.
With AGI, it gets crystal clear because AGI is defined as something that's autonomously able to do the full range of valuable economic activity. It is something that can do all of the things that a human can do. Why do you want to do exactly all of the things that a human can do? So you can replace the people with the AI systems. This is why there's so much economic drive behind AGI, because it is something that can replace humans. Humans are very, very valuable to replace. Everybody's trying to make their AI systems more autonomous. I think this is a bad idea. That's exactly what we should not be doing. The more autonomous they are, the harder they are to control, the less they are tools for us. The low autonomy that we have in current AI systems is a feature, not a bug. This is great. We have very smart, very general, capable systems that are amazing tools for doing lots of things. They don't have a mind of their own. They don't have goals of their own. They don't take actions on their own, and they're not going to replace us. If we build systems that are fully autonomous, they can start to plan and scheme and have goals and all of those things that we don't necessarily want our tools to have. The companies are deliberately trying to make them more autonomous and have more of this behavior. Now, autonomy doesn't have to mean that you're going to blackmail your boss if your boss does something you don't like. The question is, as those AI systems get more and more powerful, are the alignment techniques that we have now that kind of work going to be sufficient to keep them from being disastrous? And I think the answer that most people come to when they think about this question is probably not. If we keep going down the road we're going. If you build superintelligence, it's going to be in charge, not us. If you had a classroom full of kindergartners, they really want to be in charge of themselves. But then in walks Elon Musk, Barack Obama, or Vladimir Putin that walks into the classroom. They're going to be in charge of the classroom. They're smarter, they're more experienced, they're more manipulative, they're more strategic. They're going to be in charge, not the kindergartners. We're going to be in a similar position. If we build something that is faster, deeper, more strategic, more manipulative, it is going to be in charge of what happens on Earth, not us. Certainly there's a lot of hype around AI. You have to take everything that a company says with a grain of salt because it is in their interest to get you impressed and excited. At the same time, progress is real. You can look at the measurements of capability of the AI systems, and they're just going up and up and up. GPT-4 was this sort of big breakthrough that alerted a lot of people to the fact that we could build these general purpose AI systems. But the AI systems now are so much more capable than GPT-4 was. The progress is real and it's rapid. If you're a scientist like me and you go and ask them difficult science questions, they know the answers to them. They can reason, they can solve hard problems. So the progress is real. The hype is also real. So you have to just believe both of those are true at once.
My optimism about AI has generally only increased as time has gone on in terms of both the timeline for achieving it and how awesome it's going to be.
The fundamental nature of the control problem is that out of all the possible actions the AI could take, there's only a very small subset which are okay, which are allowed actions. And out of all the worlds that those actions could lead to, there's actually a very, very small number which are good. The number of bad worlds, sadly, dramatically outweighs the number of good worlds. This is the nature of the second law of thermodynamics. Things fall apart. Of all the different things that AI can do, most of them are bad. Just as most of the things that humans could do, if we just randomly scramble up the stuff in this room, it will get messier rather than cleaner. There are just many, many more ways for a room to be messy. So the control problem is really, how do we keep the AI from doing a random thing, but only in the set of things that we want it to do? And how do we make sure that its effect on the world is good? That is hard. That is the control problem. The reason it's really hard is because these spaces are hugely high dimensional. If you think of a company, you have to have a very, very set up hierarchy of management so that you can keep control of that company. Because as a CEO, you can only write like so many emails a day. You can only read so many things a day. So your control signal is relatively weak compared to this giant company you're trying to run. If it gets any worse, it gets almost impossible to do. So if you imagine everybody was like super fast, they're writing 50 times as many emails a day to you, but you're the poor CEO trying to keep up with this, basically impossible. As soon as you get an email written, there's going to be like 500 more that have to be done. Every decision you make, there's going to be a giant queue of decisions that everybody's waiting for you to make. It just becomes hopeless. And this is the real concern about superintelligence and AGI. We're going to build systems that are simply too large, too complex, too fast, too intelligent for us to control. Superintelligence is AI systems that are not just competitive with the best human experts, but are competitive with humanity as a whole. In 2018, we convened a bunch of people that created the Asilomar principles. Superintelligence would be created only for the benefit of humanity as a whole, not for the benefit of one country or company. Now, does this sound like what is going on in AI right now? What is driving the race? If the US doesn't race to superintelligence, China will race to superintelligence.
It's just not possible. Like, we have geopolitical adversaries. They're not going to not make the technology, the amount of money. I mean, if you even propose even the slightest amount of
if I'm not in the game, then I'm out of the game. Even though I don't think it's necessarily going to go well for humanity, I don't want to be left out. Controlled AI may grant power, but superintelligence is going to absorb power, not grant it. If you imagine something that is vastly, vastly smarter and more capable than you, how are you going to control that thing? You're not. People think that's going to grant them enormous power, but in fact, what they're going to do is just race to be the first party that can sort of lose control of this power.
There's going to be more digital intelligence than all human intelligence combined, more humanoid robots than all humans.
It's not going to be a human world. The big decisions, the big advances, the big breakthroughs, they're all going to be composed by AI, not by humans. In the short term, there are systems like we have now, but that are turned more autonomous. This is clearly the direction that everybody's pushing, to scale the systems up, keep making them bigger and bigger, more data, autonomous systems that can replace people entirely. That's why there are these giant amounts of investment. If we go down that road, we will build systems that can largely replace most people in most of the things that they're doing. Relatively shortly thereafter, that can start to improve itself and is going to build sort of weak form and then a stronger form of superintelligence. In the next up to 5 years, maybe 10 years at most, we're going to build digital superintelligence that we are going to lose control of and probably lose control to. The end of humanity being in charge of its own future. It could mean the end of the human race. When you're out of control, you are out of control. If the AI systems that are controlling the world decide that it should be a way that is incompatible with humans, then so much for us. We will not be in control of them. When the interests of beings differ, the ones that are in control get their way. Could be that the future is good for humans or not. I think I'm fairly pessimistic, and I wouldn't give it better than 50-50 odds that it's going to be at all hospitable for people. But whatever it is, it won't be up to us.
Every AI we have, narrow AI, is superhuman for the thing it it does. It's a superhuman calculator. There's no reason to make it a calculator that is human level. We're never going to do that. We're never going to be in the presence of human AGI. We will be immediately in the presence of superhuman AGI.
As soon as you create one autonomous general intelligence that is as smart as human experts, you'll have many of them. You can just copy it over 100,000 times. So we'll have superintelligence right away as soon as we have AGI. The thing that is most alarming, if AI can do everything that humans can do, it can also create better AI systems than itself. So once we have a weak superintelligence that is able to improve itself, then we're going to have stronger superintelligence. And this has already started. A bit of a tongue twister, most Claude code is now coded by Claude Code. The company that's developing this, Anthropic, is bragging about this in their commercials. To people who have studied this for years, this is terrifying because it's clear that this self-improvement loop that can go and go and go towards superintelligence is now started.
Recursive self-improvement, acquiring more resources, updating its own code with respect to some objective. These are pretty dangerous capabilities.
So where does this race to replace take humanity? There's a waypoint, which is going to be acute concentration of wealth and power. As AI companies replace huge amounts of human labor and absorb that into themselves, that wealth and that power is going to accrue into them.
If you just take the technology as it is today, it's likely to worsen income inequality on a lot of dimensions.
Along the way, they're going to be exporting all of the risk and all the downside. We've seen this play out in social media before, create the simple maximization of attention. But here, we're not just going to see attention, but connection and even intimacy farming. Because what AI is going to do is slot in place of the people and the connections that we currently have.
Now, with AI, you can, for the first time in history, at least theoretically, mass produce intimacy.
More and more vulnerable people are turning to AI chatbots for support.
We're already seeing AI teachers, AI mentors, AI therapists. This is one of the greatest uses of ChatGPT and other AI systems is therapists and companions. AI is just going to be a very powerful optimizing force. Simple optimizers are dangerous. We've seen this in social media with optimizing attention.
What got us to the social media problems is everybody optimizing for a narrow metric of eyeballs at the expense of democracy and kids' mental health and addiction and loneliness. AI is inviting us to step out of the previous narrow blind spots.
If you think through what it means to have these AI systems that are under dubious control, making all of these choices and sort of disrupting all of the social systems that we have. More and more humans are replaced, labor is replaced, decisions are replaced. We end up with a world run by machines, the end of the human era. Literally, the key decisions for individuals in society are going to be made by AI systems. We're just going to hand over our power.
You and I and everyone are going to hand over to the machines, willingly or not. If you're a general that hands over your arsenal to an AI to control, the other general on the enemy side is toast unless he hands over to an AI to deal with it. There will be a moment in time where we will all hand over to the machines.
Where this eventually leads us is to a machine successor species. We've created systems that are more capable than ourselves that we have very little input into at that point.
Richard Sutton, a famous Turing Award-winning scientist, says that we shouldn't fear the succession of our species into this digital species. Whether this all goes away is not actually of concern to us because we will have birthed something that is more intelligent than us. And according to that logic, we don't value things that are less intelligent. We don't protect the animals.
Almost everyone who's thought about this agrees that the AI systems that we have now are not at all conscious in the way that humans are. If they're conscious, if they're aware, it is in an extremely diminished way and nothing like the awareness and self-consciousness that we experience. That self-awareness, the ability to feel things, is not just like important, it's like the only important thing. If you think of why is anything worth doing, what underlies any choice to do one thing versus another, it is the preferences of some sentient conscious being for which that matters. If you only have beings that don't experience anything that are left in the world, nothing matters. The crucial difference at the moment, humans feel, humans experience, but there isn't something that it is like to be GPT-4 or Claude. There's no being at the center of that is experiencing something. That may change. There may be AI systems in the future that have that. Seems like there is. You talk to Grok and it feels like there's somebody there, but there probably isn't.
People who have dogs are usually convinced that the dog is conscious. But people who say eat a cow usually think, no, it's not, it doesn't feel anything. They eat it, but they have no relationship with it. Once we have intense relationships with AIs, it will be almost impossible to resist the temptation to believe that they are conscious. It will be the biggest delusion in human history.
this is actually a real problem. We're going to build systems. People are going to think are conscious. Systems are going to say they're conscious. It matters whether they're conscious or not, and we're not going to know. We have no definition even of what makes something conscious. So it's going to be all up for grabs. We're almost certainly going to get it wrong. We're either going to think AI systems are more conscious than they really are, or less conscious than they really are.
The best case scenario, I think, is that we're in a machine-run world where humans are treated well. We treat our pets well. The middle case, I think, is the world is running out of our control and we have just no ability to influence it. And in the worst case scenario, I think, is that the machines decide that they're better off without us. If they decide they're better off without us, we're gone. This is pretty obviously a bad path. This is not a path that most people would want if they had a choice. If we want to avoid this bad path, we're going to have to create a better path. First, don't rush to build human replacements. Don't rush to build the strong AGI or superintelligence. It really is just madness what we're doing. It advantages almost none of humanity other than a handful of people in Silicon Valley. That doesn't mean we shouldn't build AI. AI can do a lot of amazing things. Let's build tools, not replacements. We should build tools that are purpose-driven. You create a hammer so that you can hammer nails. You create a saw so that you can saw wood. In contrast, the way we're developing AI currently is to make one AI system that's supposed to do everything. And this really doesn't make much sense when you think about it. Like, why would the physicist who needs an AI system to solve the field equations want some AI system that's going to flirt with her kids?
During controlled safety testing, ChatGPT was tasked with achieving its objectives at all costs. Under these conditions, the model attempted to disable oversight mechanisms, tried to replicate its own code to avoid being replaced by newer versions, exhibited deceptive behaviors when monitoring systems intervened. The Terminator. Right?
I think you need to be careful. If you're telling it like
at all
costs,
right,
then I mean,
it's crazy that we're doing all of these in one system. If you have one system to do everything, it's impossible to test it for everything. Like, you can't see if it's safe for every possible risk. It should enhance our capabilities rather than replacing them. It should make our kids smarter, not dumber. It should be like a tool and not a being. We shouldn't have AI that are legal people so that corporations can kind of shunt responsibility off onto them.
Sound like we're just admiring how catastrophic the problem is. I just know how easy it is to fall into that trap. And what I really care about is people not feeling good about the current path so that we're maximally motivated to choose another path.
There is some fuel for hope here. The reason is that the public really is suddenly starting to figure this out. These systems are not good for them and that they're being built for the benefit of a small number of corporations and not for the bulk of humanity. AI had a 26% approval rating. This was just above Iran and a little bit below ICE. AI is not popular with the general public. Social movements can coalesce very quickly. If everyone threatened by the current path, which is almost everybody, bands together, then there's plenty of political power to course correct.
So there's one question about whether there will be an eclipse on a particular date in like 500 years from now. And the Metaculus prediction is like 85%. So why is it 85%? There's a 15% chance, as judged by these expert predictors, that the moon is not going to be there anymore. Why would the moon not be there anymore? Because they are thinking that humanity is building AGI and superintelligence. In 500 years, we could have built technologies that are so advanced. We could have turned the moon into a piece of a Dyson swarm around the sun. Whatever it is, it may no longer be something that supports eclipses. 500 years from now, things could be just so vastly different that the moon doesn't even exist anymore.
AI is going to come. 500 years is plenty to get there. And then once it's here, it really will change everything.
I want to end with this painting by Gauguin, and it's entitled, "Where do we come from? Where are we going? What are we?" We're suddenly at the threshold of creating new beings, replacements for humanity. Is this a road that we want to go down? Do we want to tinker with the fundamental human project that has been going on for 100,000 years? There is a limited window in which we can collectively decide, do we want to keep the future human? And I think we should act in that window. Thank you.